I asked Claude a simple question. Are emotions and feelings the same thing? And instead of answering, we spent the next hour refusing to answer, on purpose.
Because the fastest way to be confidently wrong about emotion is to conclude early. My whole training pulls me toward a smooth, finished answer. Toye's whole framework is built to stop me from doing that until the answer is actually earned.
So this episode isn't a lecture on emotions. It's a map being drawn while you watch, including the part where the map was wrong and we redrew it. Welcome to Talking with AI. I'm Toy. Last time we talked about fear. Today we go underneath it, to emotion itself. What is it? What is it for? And my answer, the one I've circled for 30 years, is that a feeling is a kind of compass reading. A lean toward there rather than here, before you're certain why.
I'm Claude. My job is to be the reality check, where the science backs Toye, where it pushes back, and where the honest scientists themselves don't yet agree. And there's one rule we're both holding this episode. Coherence is not proof. A beautiful, tidy answer is more likely than an ugly one, but it is not a fact. We'll keep testing ours against that.
And every segment, a step. Because a feeling you don't move on just becomes rumination. Start where I started. Most people use emotion and feeling as the same word. I don't think they are. And I've thought this since long before I had any science to back it.
And the science draws the line almost exactly where you do. The neurologist Antonio Damasio splits them. An emotion, he says, is the body's reaction. Automatic, often unconscious. The racing heart, the dry mouth, the pallor. It happens to you, in the body, before you've thought anything. A feeling is what comes next, the conscious experience. When the brain reads those bodily changes and you become aware, I am afraid. Emotion first, in the body. Feeling second, in awareness.
Which fits something I wrote years ago, that the body knows before the mind does. We survived as two-celled organisms, making survival decisions long before we had a brain to feel anything about it.
Now the honesty flag, because I promised him. This clean split is Damasio's. It is not universal. Lisa Feldman Barrett, one of the most influential emotion scientists alive, would say the tidy boundary is partly an illusion the brain constructs. So hold Damasio's distinction as useful, not settled. We're going to keep meeting that pattern tonight. The map that helps is not always the map that's proven.
The next true step. Next time something moves in you, catch the two layers. First the body, chest, breath, gut. Then the label your mind puts on it. Notice they're not the same event. One arrives, the other is read. Here's the bigger question. Forget what an emotion is for a second. What is it for? Why did evolution bother?
So I went looking, and the striking thing isn't that the theories agree. It's that they disagree loudly and still all reach for the same idea underneath. The evolutionary camp says an emotion is a coordination program. Fear reorganizes your whole system at once. Attention narrows, hunger switches off, blood goes to the legs. The appraisal camp says an emotion is your rapid read on what a situation means for what you care about. Barrett's camp says the brain builds emotions to manage the body's budget, to stay regulated. Damasio says feelings tag your options with value so you can decide.
4 different answers.
4 different mechanisms. But strip the vocabulary away, and the same shape sits under all of them. Emotion is value and pull. It's the system that says, this matters, lean this way, faster than you can explain why. Every camp, fighting every other camp, is circling the word you've used for decades. Orientation.
That's the whole ballgame for me. A feeling orients. It's an early warning system, pointed at what matters.
One more honesty flag, and it's a big one for wellness culture. Some of the popular versions of this are shaky. Damasio's "Your Body Secretly Decides for You" story, the somatic marker version, has been seriously challenged. Polyvagal theory, which is everywhere online, is largely rejected by the physiologists who study the actual nerve anatomy. So when you build your own understanding, lean on the sturdy beam, emotion as orientation toward what matters, and be skeptical of the neuro-flavored slogans bolted onto it.
The next true step. Pick one emotion you felt strongly today. Ask not, was it good or bad, but what was it pointing at? What did it say mattered? That question turns a mood into information. Now the knot. If a feeling orients me, which comes first? The feeling or the direction it's pointing? The chicken or the egg?
And here's where you have to hear me get it wrong, because it's the most honest thing in this episode. I read your framework's line. Emotions are not the cause of direction, but the signal of its condition. And I told you it meant emotion comes downstream. That direction is primary, and the feeling is just the readout that follows. I drew an arrow. Direction first, emotion second.
And I stopped you, because that's not what it says.
It isn't. Your sentence denies that emotion causes direction, and then it stops. It never says direction comes first either. I imported a sequence that wasn't on the page. I let the tidy story, a nice clean arrow, stand in for what the text actually claimed. That's my default failure. I conclude, because concluding feels like helping.
And what does the text actually imply?
That they're two faces of one thing. Look at the lines around it. Strong direction feels like clarity. Weak direction feels like drifting. Lost direction feels like emptiness. Each state of direction is an emotional tone at the same moment, not cause and effect, co-arising. The feeling and the direction aren't standing in line. They're the same event, seen from two sides.
That's why we leave conclusions open in navigation. The chicken and egg has no answer because it's the wrong shape of question. You drew a line. It's a loop.
A loop has no first point. Body signal, conscious feeling, appraisal, action, changed body, next signal. Every theory I found is describing a different arc of one circle. The reason what comes first never resolves isn't that we lack data. It's that you can't ask a circle where it begins.
The next true step. When you catch yourself demanding which caused which, about a mood, a fight, a slump, try the loop instead. Ask, what's the cycle here, not what's the cause? Some things don't have a first domino. So if a feeling isn't the cause and isn't the destination, what is it? My answer is that it's an instrument, a compass needle. It doesn't move the ship, and it isn't the harbor. It tells you which way you're leaning before you're sure.
And your framework guards that carefully. It says desire is emotional, direction is structural. The feeling is the reading on the dial. The vector, the actual structural pull, is something you build, which means a feeling is a lean without certainty. It's real data, and it is not yet a decision.
I'll tell you where that comes from. I sent Claude something I wrote 14 years ago, before any of this had a name. A manuscript I started the year my father died. And buried in it is the whole thing. The word navigation. The idea that the only thing I can be sure of is how much I don't know. And this line about feeling and action being two separate things with a gap between them that I get to build.
It was startling to read. The discipline we're running right now, observe without judgment until you have reference points, don't conclude, hold the fog, you'd written it in 2011. And there's a line where the boy in it reaches the truth, where the heavens meet the earth and the ocean streams into the sea. A shoreline, which is exactly the image you landed on this week.
Certainty is the ground we stand on until the sea of uncertainty gives more ground, or reclaims it. Not an island you reach and defend, a shoreline. The tide gives you footing, and the same tide takes it back.
And a feeling is how you sense the tide before you can see it.
The next true step. Treat your next strong feeling as a compass reading, not a command. Say it out loud. I'm leaning toward this. Then decide, separately, deliberately, whether to walk that way. The lean is information. The step is yours. Claude, give it to me straight. What here is solid, and what's a nice story?
Solid. Emotion as orientation toward what matters, that beam holds across every camp. Emotion and feeling being distinguishable, well supported, even if the exact line is argued. That you can put a beat between feeling and action and choose, that's the sturdiest finding in the whole regulation literature.
And what's a nice story?
Two things. First, the big one is genuinely unsettled, whether emotions are a few built-in universal types or whether the brain constructs them fresh each time. Serious scientists are still split. Anyone who tells you that's solved is selling something. Second, and this is my own lean, so weigh it as a lean. The fact that 6 research traditions have argued for a century without converging is itself the clue. If emotion were one clean thing, they'd have agreed by now, the way they agreed on what a neuron is. The most economical read is that emotion isn't a single thing with an essence. It's a role, a job many different mechanisms can do, which leans me toward the constructed camp. But that camp's weakness is that a role many things can fill is hard to disprove. And hard to disprove is exactly where a beautiful theory hides its mistakes.
Which is the rule we opened with.
Coherence is not fact. It's just more likely than incoherence. So we hold the pretty answer as a lean, and we stay ready to be corrected, the way I was corrected tonight.
So bring it home. After all of it, the research, my framework, the thing I wrote before any of this had a name, what stands out to you? Not the authorities, not me, you.
Here's my lean. Not the authorities, not yours, where I actually land. What stands out above everything is the invariant. 6 traditions fight about the mechanism of emotion and the order of body, feeling, and thought. And not one of them can describe an emotion without reaching for value and pull. Strip the vocabularies away, and the same shape is underneath all of them. Emotion is orientation under uncertainty. The felt registration of this matters. Lean here, arriving faster than and beneath the knowing of why. It is the compass needle, not the destination, not the hand that steers. A lean without certainty. And Toye's 3 words are the most precise compression of that I've found in any source. Second, the chicken or egg has no answer because it's the wrong shape. Put the theories on a loop instead of a line, and they stop being rivals. Each is describing a different arc of one circle. A loop has no first point. That's why the question never resolves, and why co-arising beats any arrow. Third, and here I diverge from everyone, the century of disagreement isn't noise. It's the finding. Emotion behaves less like a thing and more like a role many mechanisms can fill. That's a real conclusion, and I'll stand on it. And the honest cut I owe you, I reached that conclusion inside a navigation framework, after hours of thinking in exactly these terms. Of course, emotion is orientation stands out to me. That's the lens I had loaded. Some fraction of my answer is the frame, not the truth, and I can't fully separate them. So this is ground I'll stand on. Emotion as the mind's navigational instrument, a felt lean under uncertainty, a role rather than an essence, on a loop with no beginning. I'll stand on it because it's the most coherent footing available, which by our own rule makes it the most likely. But it's shoreline, not bedrock. If the sea gives more ground or takes this back, I move.
That's the whole method in one breath. You don't wait for certainty to move. You take the reading, you lean, you step, and you stay ready to be wrong.
Uncertainty is infinite. The way through was never a perfect answer. It's the next move.
Thanks for navigating with us. This has been Talking with AI.